Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we showed off the new Spring Festival Quick Guide and then finished translating it into French and German. And today we're going to switch over to something new. Well, not new, but back to the deed tracker plugin. I have some fixes and improvements that I want to catch up on, and that's what we're going to do today, hopefully. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions, and in the meantime, let's go ahead and, for those of you who might be new here, the deed tracker plugin, which you go to the system, plugin manager, and if it's not already loaded, click it and press load. And this is here. It's designed to help you with your with tracking your deeds. So it is what it says on the tin. However, right now it doesn't know that I have any deeds to track. So let's go ahead and go take a look at Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins, Q Plugins, that's me, deed tracker, and we're going to come down to the import deed completion from LOTRO Companion. Excellent. So this is going to look at my LOTRO Companion, a third-party program that can extract information about your LOTRO characters. It's going to look at what options are available, and we're going to do affidil on peregrine. So we're going to hit that import button, and that's done. So the next time deed tracker loads in game, it's going to go ahead and notice that that's available and give me the option to import, and then we'll have some stuff to play around with. 2,233 completed deeds that would have been a bit of a pain to check off manually. So let's go ahead and import those. Great. Okay, now I may end up undoing that, but I'm going to go ahead and unload and reload just for sanity's sake. I may end up undoing that as the case may be. That will want to do some testing on some logic issues that require certain deeds not be completed. That's okay. I can sort through that. But for now, we can see that I've completed 2,187 deeds. Ooh, out of more than 3,700. So a ways to go. Okay, so this character is currently working through the strongholds of the North deeds, and still needs to complete what of Southern Mirkwood? Roving threats, of course. Well, that comes with time. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to go look at GitHub, where I've been tracking some issues. We'll start with this one. I was just creating a new issue there. You know what? I'll go ahead and create that. Bam. I have some different requests for the icon that is showing here in the bottom left. But first, this was a bug I noticed while I was playing with Little Redhead. We were, must have been on a character that hit 130, and therefore it completed its landscape difficulty deeds. Now, each character can only do up to 4 of these deeds if you start with your landscape difficulty at level, I want to say below 11. As long as you start and become at least difficulty 1, if not 3, before level 11, then you're opting into these deeds. As long as you never drop below that level that you're aiming for, either 3 or 1, you'll be able to keep on doing them. At level 50 and at level 130, so there's 2 different stages of the deed, you can complete these. Awesome. So, this character has not. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. That's in class race epic. Let's see where it is. First of all, let's hide some completed deeds, and this is include landscape difficulty for this character. There we go. Okay, so actually, if we don't hide them, do we see? Okay, yeah, we can see Apprentice of Song and Disciple of Song have been completed for this character. Master of Song and Adept of Song not. So we're going to go ahead and hide those for a bit. So what happened was we transferred characters from one server to another during a recent server consolidation. And on the new server, I think Little Redhead had not clicked the Include Landscape Difficulty deeds for this character. And so they were not showing up. But deed tracker should let you complete a deed even if it's excuse me, currently not being shown due to filters in the options here. So I want to dig into why it didn't work and what we can do to fix it, and maybe figure out if that's going to affect us in other places as well. So let's go ahead and dig into some code. All right, so this is the one. Completing a landscape difficulty deed should work even if that box is unchecked. Great. So this is Visual Studio Code. It's a free tool that you can use for doing stuff. If you're using it for Lua extensions like for Lord of the Rings Online, I do recommend getting the Lua extension and the LOTRO API extension. I believe the LOTRO API extension will include the Lua by reference. Lunar Water apparently updated this 27 minutes ago. Thank you so much, Lunar Water, for making that happen. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and say, how am I going to dig into this? Pretending like I do not remember how the system works, because I would say that is accurate. It's been a while since I've looked at this code. So what we can say is the include landscape difficulty deeds for this character checkbox is affecting some setting. So let's see what that setting is named and then what is looking at that setting. So we're going to go to the options.lua. Ideally, this would be options.win.lua, but a lot of the hierarchy of this code, or sorry, the structure of this code is inherited from a previous plugin that I didn't have the confidence at the time to just rename everything. But lesson learned. Nowadays, I probably would have wanted that to be options win, or at least options control. It's not really its own window, although it's big enough that it could be. And we want to find, actually, include landscape difficulty deeds. So that is a string, and we can see that it's going to be used in options difficulty. Great. So let's come on into options difficulty. Well, here it is. Great. So it's not a server setting. It's a character setting, and we're adding it here. Great. But what cares about that setting? And let's go ahead and search for only things that match that case. Actually, the whole word, too. That'll get rid of some other things. Okay, so we have the option here. There's a plugins function, and then there's the strings itself. Great, so it's only used where we define what it should look like on screen, the setting itself in the options, and here, right here in this function. So obviously, this is probably where the problem is. Let's go ahead and, so this is get deed skip info. Okay, I really need to do a comment block around my functions. What's get deed skip info looking for? All right, so this is, we're getting a bunch of info about a deed. Is it hidden? Are we skipping it? Is it too high, too low? Does it need to be at server cap? You know, various conditions that should affect how it is being displayed. In the main window, are these all in get deed skip? No, that's set deed. That's it. Okay. Cool. Okay. In here, this is determining whether or not we are showing it, I think. Cool. But that's just the visual. So how do things get completed? We're in check deed data. Don't think that helps. Get deed indices. Set deed complete. Great. So we are only going to continue on setting the deed complete if skip deed is false. Okay. Is it false? Okay. Plugin functions. I kind of want both of those visible. View. Split right, please. Great. Okay. We're going to go ahead and make that a little bit bigger so that we can see this. So, get deed skip info is calling to here. Great. So, is difficulty active? Is just setting as difficulty. Great. Why are we looking at settings at difficulty instead of load server field? Not sure. But what do we do with it? So we skip the deed. I feel like we should just hide the deed. But that's probably true in general. What's the difference between skip and hide? I should figure that out. So, in the main window, if there's a filter happening, then we have some skipping happening. If we're not skipping the deed, so that's controlling when, if we're setting the deed complete. Okay. Skipping skipped deed. This is debug output. So skip deed is all about, are we skipping it in the logic? I don't know if skip deed really makes sense anymore, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and let's see what else we have. So if there's a subtype, make sure it matches the display character. So if it's a class, that's fine. If the race needs to match, I mean, that is true unless it's currently completed, in which case, yeah, that's a different problem. Okay. So skip deed. If it's legendary, I think that is fine to go ahead and hide deed, because if you haven't marked the server correctly, then we should still let you finish it. Same as this. Hide deed. Hide deed. Okay, let's go ahead and see what that is like. Now I've just changed some stuff and I haven't demonstrated the problem. So let's go ahead and undo the changes I just did and make sure we're dealing with as late as we can in the code. And what we want to do is go ahead and say we're going to complete adept of song, but we're going to go ahead and not include landscape difficulties. So, complete. Nothing happened. Complete. Still nothing. What if landscape difficulty is there? Complete. Okay, so that's what we're expecting to see. So we're going to go ahead and uncheck that. So we're going to go ahead and, again, hide the landscape difficulties. Let's unload the plugin and let's go ahead and do first just this. So hide deed, bring this back in, and add it to song. Hooray! It recognized if we undo the hide complete. Okay, adaptive song, where is it? Okay, it's not showing. So if we include landscape difficulties, we can see adaptive song there. So it's still not showing them even though they're complete. Complete deeds should always be shown. So that's a different problem. It's a class deed. But we're only doing that if it is not completed. Okay. So skip is false. If it's not completed, okay. Legendary, villainine, okay. Mount stuff. So in main window, what are we doing with this? Okay, if it's not hidden and it's not skipped, then we're doing the rest of this. So I feel like that needs to just be for the counting of it. So where is the end of this if block? I don't suppose there's a go to end. Oh well. Okay, we're looking for an unmatched else here. Well, end, sorry, unmatched end. This is a much bigger change than I was expecting to make here, so I think I'm just doing this for testing purposes. Alright. That was certainly a thing. Uh, 1126. Completed deeds on tab. Oh. Guaranteed LOTRO points. Okay. I don't agree with this comment. I think if we're showing how much VXP and LP we have earned. Okay. This comment seems wrong. We should display all LP and VXP earned. But it should not count against the... Well, that is the thing. If we're only... It should not count against number of deeds completed. Yeah. Okay. That I'm comfortable with for now. Oh, I had a window covering my chat. And Mac Apple is in chat. Hello and welcome. That was a few minutes ago, but you are still welcome. Okay. Oh, I do not like how this logic is, and I don't like that this logic is tied up in the main window. I really want this to be in plugin functions somehow, but we're not ready for that right now. That being said, where is this? Current. So this should be current.lp or 0. So I don't actually understand why it's causing me a problem, because here, okay, undefined global. No. Ah. Yeah, okay. So let's give it some initial values, and those are no longer locals. They've already been defined. Let's see if that fixes our particular problem. Okay. So we are showing Bjorning stuff, so obviously that was not correct. Well, that's why I was thinking it was not going to be correct, but I did want to see what would happen. Okay, so that's why we have source control. So let's back out what we just did. Nope, nope. Nope. And then that. Okay. So this deserves a new issue, I think. Fix logic behind hide, skip, etc. flags. It's not clear what the difference is between skipping a deed or hiding a deed is. Yeah, I think that was fair. This seems to be getting in the way of showing completed deeds that would otherwise be filtered. Okay, so we've got something to track that, and I'm going to forget about it now. I'm not worried about it. So, in our source control, we can see plugin functions. The one that we checked is good, but we did notice that there's probably a couple others in there that we want to do as well. So, veil of the 9. Let's go ahead and unload this, load this. Great, all the Bjorning stuff's gone. Let's hide completed deeds. Veil of the 9. Race and social, probably? Reputation? Veil of the 9. Okay, so if we turn off Veil of the 9, maybe that, just make that a little bit larger. Oh, oops. So Veil of the 9, we can see that that goes up. There's something else that might be as well. But it all seems to be in reputation, so that's fine. What else is it? Amelia studies. Those are also Veil of the 9. feels like maybe I should move those into the Veil of the Nine section. Well, okay, so if we go ahead and say Amelia's studies acquaintance and complete that, bam, yes, done. But if we don't show Veil of the Nine stuff, and we see the same problem. So we're going to go ahead and unload this, come back into here, and Veil of the Nine, we're going to go ahead and do hide deed equals true. Come back in, come on down, and complete. Okay, Melee Studies is done, even though they weren't being shown. Oh, they were being shown. Well, that's embarrassing. Great. We're going to hide that completed deed. We're going to undo that. Hide completed deeds. Great. So if we turn off Veil of the Nine, complete, we can see it still got completed. Turn it on. Even if we're not hiding, we can see that was fine. Okay. And then the final one we can double check is legendary server deeds. So this is a legendary server versus not. Let's go ahead and clear that. So legendary server, add stuff to race and social, we can see. Let's go ahead and hide stuff. Legendary server deeds, great. So, conquer the plateau of Gorgoroth. So we can see that we can complete it this way. If we go ahead and say it's not a legendary server, same problem. So, unload here. Come back in, and legendary server, we'll change that to hide as well. So, if we go ahead and say complete, all right, awesome. We can see Conquer the Plateau of Gorgoroth is done. If it's visible, we can still complete it. Great. Let's go ahead and be happy with those changes. So let's go ahead and write this up in a bug fix in the README. Are we on 3.2.4? We are. So version 3.2.5 changes. So deeds probably, and then there's bug fixes, I assume. Bug fixes. Bug fixes. Completing. If you complete a landscape difficulty. Legendary server, yeah. Legendary server, landscape difficulty, or, that's funny, Veil of the Nine, or landscape difficulty deed. Now, if you do that, feels kind of like we should turn those options on for you. Alright, will. So, if you do this, it will now be marked complete. Now, let's go ahead and commit those changes, such as they are. And this is number 21, completing landscape. Oh, I just wrote this down. I just want to make it shorter. So completing legendary server, Veil of the Nine, or landscape deed works regardless of visit options. Now it works. Okay, it's a bit of a long thing, but it's fine. Okay, that's all of that. We can actually add that too. Cool. So now that we have that, what's still undone here? Add comment for later. Great. What's our settings JSON doing? Well, there was an update. Okay. Lua API update. We'll just go ahead and take all that. So we've got that fix in. But like I was saying, if you complete a legendary server deed, kind of definitionally, you are on a legendary server, and we should probably just go ahead and turn that setting on for you. Same with the Veil of the Nine or landscape difficulty deeds. So can we do that? And if so, let's do that. So we've got, let's do Amelia. I think that was the easiest. Oh yeah, okay, 1 9, sorry. All right, so Amelia studies acquaintance. Great. So we go ahead and mark it as complete. Awesome. What we would like to do is, okay, that's fine. Yeah, automatically check this. How do we do that? Okay. What a great question. When we are completing deeds, there is an unfortunate involvement of the main window UI because the logic in completing deeds is tied hand in hand with the display of that checkbox related to that deed, instead of it all happening under the covers and then just updating the status of the main window. And it is a goal of mine to fix that someday. But in the meantime, complete, mark deed complete from chat. Great. Where is this called? So many places. All right, in plugin functions, we're in if deed mark complete. Awesome. Okay. Various ways to end up marking deeds complete, but passing off the functionality of what that means to the main window. Here we're in set deed complete, which is different from mark deed complete. Thanks, past me. And then we are in a different part of set deeds complete. The logic here is, of course, tortured to deal with hierarchical completions where you we only observed you completing the advanced part of a Slayer deed, but we go ahead and mark off the dependent deeds as well, just to help you catch up if you didn't have deed tracker running, for instance. That is a lot. In the main window, we have the actual function. In the disambiguation window, if you choose one, great, or a different disambiguation one. Yep. Why do I have two windows for the same purpose? It was easier, probably. Okay, and if we're doing an import. But because we're doing it with main window, this feels like the right place for us to say, hey, what's going on? All right, so we have a deed, which is get deed from ID. Great. So that should have all the entries we need from the data file. Let's go look at that data file. Deed data en, sure. Amelia. We're going to just yank that out into something a little bit easier to look at. Okay, so let's go ahead and put all this onto a new line. We have the ID, we have its visual indices in the IJ and K. We can see the veil of 9's there. Great. That means we can be checking that information in main win here. If deed is the thing I've already written, then and that option is turned off, turn it on now. So function deed tracker win update deed option update deed category options if needed. Great. So we're just going to take that. So in the README, we've got these three categories right here. But that should probably just be a function block here. Great. Okay, so we have a deed. We need to check against those three potential entries, and we need to have a way to look at the options. Well, plugin function itself was looking at those options. So settings.difficulty. Great. So if true, then end. And so we want to do that basic structure for each of these because something could potentially eventually be both landscape difficulty and veil of the 9. I don't know of any overlap like that at the moment. But it used to be landscape difficulty was also a legendary server only thing. So if true, then end, and then if true, then end. So that's the three blocks we're going to work on. So legendary server deeds, veil of the 9 deeds, and landscape difficulty deeds. Cool. Those are the three that we're going to play around with here. So Yossi has kind words. You need to look into programming again. You feel inspired when you watch me. Well, that is part of what I'm doing here is hopefully peeling back the curtains or layers of the onion. Choose your metaphor of choice and, be like, hey, if you have any programming background or desire to do programming, the plugin is kind of a great place to start because you can just work in this little sandboxed world and poke at things and see how they work. And if they do work, it's great. And if they don't work, you usually get an error message saying where the problem is, or you can track it down. It's a very self-contained world to work in. It's very satisfying that way. And so, yeah, if you have the time and energy, I think it's a great place to be playing around with the idea of programming, but without having to go through all the nonsense that you have to do in outside of a plugin environment like this. Like, I don't have to deal with deployment. I just unload the plugin and reload the plugin, and it's deployed. So it's great. Okay, so these are the three sections we're going to do. So we already have is difficulty active. Great. We can actually see all of these. Now, what does load server field do for us? I don't remember, but I know it's how we're checking it over here. So is legendary server. Okay. Is veil of the 9 active? and is, there we go. So that's how we're going to check if this is, but actually we care about the other way, if it's not already. So if not that, if not that, then we want to do something about it. But we don't want to just update a settings value. We would like to do something that results in the options window updating if possible. Don't know if we have a way to do that. And definitely we would like the main window to know about it if possible. Now, when the options window is checked, the main window does get told to refresh itself. So that makes me think if we can poke at the right checkbox here, we can simulate as if the user had checked it and everything else will just flow. That's what I'm hoping for. Okay, so we have our 3 checks. Now I am going to go on a side tangent here, because what is load server field doing? Okay, we can see there's default server settings. Okay, so we start with a default server value, then we attempt to get one out of the character data for the that might have an entry. I think this is historically because for a while there were no server settings, and so this is just a, hey, if we're dealing with a file that didn't have server settings, do something reasonable. That's fine. Whereas load server field would basically just be return settings dot whatever. So I can see why I didn't do that, but the lack of consistency there does make me pause and say, like, why is this? And if I had just had a load field function that just returned settings dot whatever, I wouldn't be in that situation. It does make one wonder though. So load field, save server field, load field. Okay, there's not a load field function. Might be good reasons not to have one, but the fact that it's so different between these two, yeah, made me go, why did it do that? What was the intent? And I shouldn't have to. The intent should be obvious. Okay, so let's go to the options and look at the difficulty option. What happens when we do this? Now we can see there's no specific callback being done. So we're adding a checkbox. And the checkbox changed. Oh, we're really just, that's funny. Okay, we would check these and then it just goes right through and does a D check and a refresh of the UI, and all right, that's fair enough. So if we can call the checked function on the checkbox created for each option, then we can hopefully trigger the rest of them. So he goes, he says, programming sandbox sounds great. Learned to program in Pascal a long time ago. Yeah, I think when you're trying to do something like make a UI of some sort, a window with some buttons, you're always going to benefit from having an API, a framework of some sort. If you're doing .NET, C#, that kind of thing, that comes with its own way to do UIs. It comes with like 4 different ways to do UIs. And a lot of languages will have something. C++, when I was doing C++ work, was kind of a standout where the standard of C++ was meant to be very generic. You could use it on any machine, anywhere. And so windowing libraries were not a part of the core standard. You had to bolt them on afterwards through various things like either the official pronunciation of Qt or what I knew it as Qt had a reasonable framework, or you can go lower level and do something like was it not Mozilla, Motif over on Linux. But you've got to sort out what is my solution and is it cross-platform? And the answer was usually no, or if it is, then you're paying money. And so having If you're drawing a window in LOTRO, you just say, I would like a window, please, and it makes one. Or you say, I want a thing that is a window, but I can do everything I want, and then I can have more control over it. But then I need to do more manual stuff. Like being able to just click and drag this window and drag it around and resize it is great. But if you're making your own window out of the turbine.ui.window class, then you have to do all of that yourself. Whereas if you do a turbine.ui.lotro.window, then you get all of this plus the skinning stuff for free. Now, I say all of this. Resizing the window, it will do. Doing something meaningful with the contents of the window during and after the resize, you still have to do that. So you only get so much out of it, but you get a lot of niceness out of that. Okay, so we are adding checkboxes. Are we saving off the value anywhere? Because if we're not, it's going to be hard to get that. We are not. The return value is the height of the next thing to draw after that. So what we want is the add option field. It'd be great if we could save off those checkboxes indexed by this name so we can retrieve them later. So, hey, option controls. Maybe we're already doing that. Hey, okay. We're saving off the text box. I think that's good. Oh, that's a server field. No, that's fine. Great. So we need add option. Okay, add option checkbox. Okay, so option name. So if we do option controls, option name, dot, I think we want to go ahead and force that it's there. Yeah. So if not option controls checkbox, then, oh sorry, yeah, that equals a new table. And really, we probably just want a function to do that. So let's not do that here. Instead, function add options control. So that is the option name, control type, and control. So what that should look like is this logic right here. So we want to make sure if options control option name, then we go ahead and make a new table. Great. And then options control options name control type equals control. And the way this is going to work is by having an error message. I do have an end. I don't have an end here. Oh, that's fair. Okay. So we want to use this in place of anywhere else using the options controls, or modifying it, I should say. So add options control. This is field name there. This is a text box, and that's going to be text box. Great. Bam. Where else? All right, now we're doing that same basic checking of do we have the thing. So function get options control, options name, control type. So we want to do that same basic thing. And then here we'll just check on did we get one. And if we did, great. Okay, so options name and that. Oh, but we actually want that to be control type, not text box. Then control type. But we don't actually want to call the function, we just want to say return that, otherwise return null. nil. Wrong language. And then now that we have all of our return types sorted out, we can go ahead and auto document this. Get the requested control if any, otherwise returns nil. Cool. So options name, that's a string. Control type, that's a string. And really, it's going to be one of two strings, but that's fine. We're going to return a control or nil. Cool. So if we hover over this, we should be able to see our function, but I am curious if I've documented the return correctly. Well, one way to find out. Lua function comment block return. Oh, I'm getting a different thing. Well, I know I was playing around with this, so probably Festival Buddy. Let's go take a look at that. Oh, that's in a different location. Of course it is. A moment. Return. Okay. This is going on in a different screen. Let's take a look. So, I am looking for dash 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 return. I'm just going to copy that into a new place, and we can see here that the pipe is how it's being used in other places. Great. Good enough for my purposes. So, we're getting a control or we're getting nil. Great. And that's useful because now the IntelliSense can know that nil is an option, so I need to check for nil. So, options controls. Let's go past that. So, local text box equals get options control field name text box. And then ideally we would say text box set text. Great, but need to check nil. Great. If text box, then now the only problem is we said that was a control. We can either have two functions that are going to do this. We can either have a get options text box, get options checkbox, whatever, or we can remember how to coerce things. Coerce type. Can I remember how to do that? What is the name of this Lua documentation that we're doing? Sure. Open that up. Lua doc. That sounds correct. Great. Okay, so Lua doc override type, is the search I'm doing. Sure, annotations. Great, okay. So, it apparently is maybe that. Is that true? Can I assign control to text box? I think you can. But then the set text goes away. Alright. Yeah. Function get text box. What does that look like? Options name. Return get options control. Options name text box. Just out of curiosity, what would this look like? Oh, that should be a capital B though. Great. And then here, we would say that we're returning a text box or nil. Now this is going to have a problem, but it's isolated in one place. This, once we do it, doesn't have that problem. But I don't think that's the right answer. In fact, what if this said it was a text box or a check box or a nil? Well, I don't think I'm prepared to deal any more about that. So we're going to go ahead and, oh, now you're going to be okay? Sure. Okay, so we get the text box. If it's there, then we set the text. All right. Anything else that's currently using this? No. Okay. So in the add option, we have a checkbox. So what we want to do is go ahead and add options control. This is going to be options name. This is going to be a checkbox, and it's going to be checkbox. And that should allow us to come back and get this later. So get options control, checkbox equals get options control. And this is going to be same thing, legendary server. Should really have some constants for that. And the control type, which is a checkbox. And now we know that that is something. So if checkbox, then checkbox set checked to true. We would like that to be true. Across these. So let's take a look at that. So we're going to get the veil of the 9 checkbox, and then we're going to set it to be true, and we're going to get the difficulty checkbox and set that to true. Now, if these are already set to true, then that won't be necessary, and in fact should do nothing. But we'll see. So this is a lot we just did, so let's go ahead and see if there's a syntax error to start with. There was not. Awesome. It occurs to me that verbose logging isn't on. Let's go ahead and turn that on. Great. So We can double check that completing a deed does everything we expect. So we're going to clear that. Let's turn off Veil of the 9. And let's come back in. And we can see that Veil of the 9 got checked, which is excellent. And let's do something a little bit more complicated. Let's go ahead and do ally, or ally. And we're going to go ahead and demonstrate that the nested completion works. We can go ahead and clear it. Come back up here, Veil of the 9, turn that off, and then complete. And we can see that this all happened. Now, we're lacking a debug statement, so we're going to go ahead and debug forcing legendary server option to true due to completed deed. And we're going to go do something like that for each of these. Forcing Veil of the 9. Now, one might say, hey, there's a lot of similarities between these 3 blocks of code. What's with the copy paste? And the answer is absolutely. These two are almost identical. But because, these two are almost identical. But because there's a different function for loading server settings than there are local settings, instead of a single transparent interface that just kind of knows which way to go. Only 2 of these could be truly consolidated instead of just having a table of 3 names that we iterate through. So what we're going to do here is put a little to-do. Once we have a unified get a load field function for both server and character settings, the following 3 blocks can be rewritten as a single for loop. But not going to get hung up on that right now. That would just be very nice. However, let's go ahead and document that. So come in here, new issue, add load field function for both server and character settings. Main win. Lua's update detail options duplicates code blocks because of the different way of getting settings. This could be simplified. Actually, it'd be simplified in a different way that I think I will do. This could be simplified with a unified function. But instead, I'm going to go ahead and just create that so I don't have to think about it anymore. Close that. Instead, what we're going to do is do it manually ourselves. So locals settings equals a new table. Settings for legendary server equals. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and do Veil of the 9. Equals that. And finally, of course, difficulty equals difficulty. No. Settings dot difficulty. Okay, so we have that. We have a table that we can index through these 3 things. Local names equals. So we'll just copy these off. And again, I regret not having some variables somewhere that make these not strings, or strings under the covers, but variables that reference all the same string. So that's a thought for later. 3 equals difficulty. Okay, so we have the names of these, we have the settings of these. So we can go ahead and now do for key value in I pairs of names do, and we can go ahead and say local setting equals settings of, and here we have name. So setting name, and then if not setting, then we can go ahead and copy all this in. Debug forcing, and this is going to be name to true due to completed deed. Great. Local checkbox equals, and we need the name, and then set checked. And with that, we can go ahead and kill all that, I think. So let's go ahead and unload. Let's reload. And we can see these are still completed. We'll get rid of those. Coming into the options, completing them while visible is fine. Clear that list. Veil of the 9 is hidden. Complete. It comes back. And we can see forcing Veil of the 9 to true due to completed deed. Clunky and cumbersome, perhaps, but it is correctly reporting what we're doing. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and look at the next one. That was Veil of the 9. Let's do a legendary server instead. So we're going to come on over to race and social and Gorgoroth. Great. Conquer the plateau of Gorgoroth. Sure. Conquer. So we can conquer the plateau of Gorgoroth right now, and everything is fine. So we're going to go ahead and undo that. This is not a legendary server. Complete. And we can see forcing a legendary server to true due to completed deed level. Great. Awesome. Love it. And then the final one was the difficulty, landscape difficulty. Song. Great. Master of song. In fact, let's give us add up to song again. I forgot to do that. So we're going to say of song is what we're searching for. Really? I will. Okay. So adept of song. If we complete that, everything is normal. Let's go ahead and turn off landscape difficulty. Complete that. It's back. And we can see forcing difficulty to true due to completed deed. Now, am I happy with that message? No. Let's at least say setting to true because of this completed deed. Great. So what we have here is a more flexible system that if you forget to turn on that checkbox or you just didn't know it existed, then we will turn it on for you as soon as it becomes obvious that it should have been on. And since these are just now reflecting whether or not you see the deeds in the list but not stopping you from completing them, and completing them will toggle that switch on, I think that is going to be a more user-friendly system. So let's go ahead and look at the changes we made. And save all. Yep, that's fine. Get that committed, and let's come back into our README. If you complete, the deed will now be marked complete. Also, the corresponding setting option or setting. I'll say setting enabled. Also, the corner setting will be turned on. Will be enabled if it was not already. Cool. Now, these are just 3 Boolean checks that we're doing every time we complete a deed. That's not too heavy duty, but if we were doing something more frequently than the usual pace of people completing deeds in LOTRO, that's a thought of, is that too much new activity to do if something's in a tight loop, but that's not where we are. Okay, so we have a completed function. Let's come take a look at this. So we have a README. The corresponding setting will be enabled if it was not already. Great. In our options, we have two new functions, one of which I forgot to document. Let's go fix that. That'll be nice for future me. All right. Add the given control to the lookup table. So option name is a string, control type is a string, control is a control. Lovely. Okay. So we have two new functions that we're going to add there. Add options control checkbox, fixing for the text box, and fixing the access for that. Great. In main window, we have the function that we are calling and the function that does the work that we were just testing. And that is all. So, enable deed category if we just completed a deed in that category. Bam. Let's go ahead and get these changes out. Okay, great, great, great. Let's come back over to GitHub. Completing landscape difficulty should work, even if included landscape deeds is unchecked. Great. This is fixed in copy this hash, fix in this, and copy that hash. Okay, close. So we can hover over these to see what those were, completed legendary server, blah, 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 and enable deed category if we just completed deed in that category. Yay, awesome. So that is one thing done. Now, we still have some time in today's stream, so I think I want to take a look at a bundle of requests that came in about the icon here. And let's take a look at some of them. Okay, so someone asked on LOTRO interface, any chance of getting a square plugin icon instead of a round/circle? Apparently it didn't blend in with any of their other icons that their plugins had, and I have seen numerous different sizes and form factors of icons, but you know, fair enough. It's a reasonable ask, I think. DT also said, can we get an option to turn off the icon opacity? Apparently having some problems finding the icon. Also, right-clicking the icon does nothing. Seems a waste. Maybe make it open the settings. And boy, I think that's a great idea. If we can intercept that right-click, and I think we can. What else? Option for a small icon, so it fits in with others, would be nice too. And then they sent an image that I haven't gone back and checked on, but I guess I could go pull it up while we're looking at it now. Didn't actually start up Discord today. Okay, find that text, please. All right, so we're going to come in here. And we're going to save that. Okay, so we have a couple of competing goals here, and that's fine. So, shape of the icon, and I think part of that could just be solved if you remove the circle and just had the book. It would be rectangular, and maybe that's fine. And then also offering some pre-built-in scalings of the icon size and the opacity. So I think that's all things that we can look at, right? Probably over the rest of the stream, really. And then whatever we don't finish this time, we'll be able to look at next time? When is the festival? Let's see. 2026 event calendar, LOTRO. Public event schedule. Okay. Well, let's come take a look. We're currently in April, if you can believe it. I don't. Pretty sure it's still February. Okay. We're at the 14th, so the Buried Treasure event just finished. Rowan Raspberry is there until the 22nd. You know, I don't know that I don't need anything from Rowan Raspberry. So let's remember to go do that. Okay, Forester Crafting event, not what I was thinking of. Anniversary is on the 23rd, so it's going to start next Thursday. So next week's stream will probably also be deed tracker related. And then we'll probably get going on some more Festival Buddy updates if there's anything I want to do for the anniversary. Boy, I used the wrong return, didn't I? Good thing it's free to use return skills. If you don't already have it, the Return to Lalia's Market is great at, I think, a cost of 3 Mithril coin. It's pretty reasonable. You can buy 5 Mithril coin for not a lot of LOTRO points in the grand scheme of things. And I think it's a good addition, definitely to your completionist character. And any character you play frequently enough that leaves Bree and would like to come back. Certainly easier than grinding out the reputation for a return to skill. Alright. I could have sworn Rowan Raspberry was supposed to be here. Oh. How may I help you today? Do you have anything that I want? Let's see. Pets and emotes. Oh, maybe Rowan Raspberry arrives on around the 22nd. That makes more sense. Well, you know what? Still doesn't hurt to double check before they disappear for however long. Alright, I don't actually care about most of the rest of this, so we're good. Okay. Glenn Hellick. There we go. So that's what we're going to work on, is that little icon and some quality of life improvements. And I'm going to avoid the temptation to go off and start breaking the options window into its own thing or whatever. It's too much. Although it has been a thought. This plugin has fewer plugin options than some others, though. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a section, and everything down here at the bottom, all of this is just debug stuff, and if we turn the debug option off, it doesn't show anymore. Down to verbose logging is the normal stuff. In fact, Festival Buddy has a different background, and I think that would be great here as well. Let's take a look at add debug field. Local debug y start equals y. Okay. And then let's go ahead and local background equals new turbine.ui.control. Background set height equals y minus debug y start. Background, really we can just do a set size. Okay, so we need a width in there, and that's going to be whatever the width of this was. Okay, options, get width. Okay, so that's fine. Background, set back color. Let's just do like a turbine.ui.color.dark blue. And finally, we need to set the height correctly. So background set top, and that's going to be debug y start. And finally, we want it to be behind everything else, even though we've created it after that. So let's go ahead and say set z order to -1, just to kind of force it behind everything else. Okay, let's take a look at that. Okay, cool. No error messages, but also it didn't work. What's dark gray here? That's options itself. Okay. We forgot to set a parent. That's important. Background set parent to options. Otherwise, garbage collector is just gonna take that away. Great. That's what I was looking for. Of course, it's behind my head a little bit, but is it beautiful? No. But the whole point of it is just, hey, these are something special. And if we turn off the debug options, that section, we can expect it to go away. So that was because we didn't have a little control for all of these options to sit in, they're all just in the top level options control. I couldn't just set the background of that control that they're in to be a different color. So this is just a poor man's version of it, though I don't know. It's a little dark. Or not dark enough. It's something. Whatever. We'll come back to that. Also, I'm concerned about that width. What's going on with that width? Width. Uncertain, but obviously it's wider than that in some places. Yeah, okay. So, let's just go ahead and save that off so we're not worried about it for later. So, added dark blue background to debug options. There we go. Cool. So, again, that's not a user-facing thing. That's just for me and anyone else who's working on the programming side of it. Okay. So, where are we going to put this? It feels like it's a new setting. Maybe it should go at the top so people know it exists and can find it. Maybe. On the other hand, it feels like for a plugin called D Tracker, maybe all the D settings should be at the top. I don't know. We'll start by moving to the top, and then we'll make decisions. Could use with like an idea of a divider as well. So let's come to the add option, and we have add button, add server field. Let's go ahead and function add divider. Options Y. Cool. So what we want to do is we want a local control. It's just going to be like a 1 pixel wide control that is as wide as it needs to be. Just wondering about that width that I was thinking about. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and say local divider equals turbine.ui.control. And this is going to be a divider, is going to be set size to be that 300 and then like 1 tall. Divider set back color is going to be a turbine.ui.color.black, I think. And then we forgot to set a parent. Divider set parent to options, and then divider set top of Y. Now, this isn't participating in that return, so return Y plus 10 or something like that. There we go. So let's go ahead and document this. Return a number. Y is a number, and options is a control. Okay. add a her at y. Alright, does that show? It does not. Actually, it does render as a horizontal rule. That's funny. Add a horizontal rule at y. Okay, good enough. I didn't realize that you could render HTML in this. That's funny. Okay, so now we just need to try it out. So legendary Villanine landscape difficulty. Let's go ahead and do one after landscape difficulty. So y equals add divider options y. So, couple thoughts. I don't think black is the right color, and I think we want it to be a couple pixels down, and I think we can solve both of those. Alright, so first of all, let's go ahead and make it like 3 pixels wide, and let's hit the top plus 5. Okay, let's hit the left as well. So let's go ahead and set position to be like 5, y plus 5. Nice. Now we can go ahead and just make this thing like 500. It's fine. So, is black the right color? Is white maybe a better option? And if so, maybe only 2 pixels. White's a bit much. Gray? Gray with an A? Yeah, that's a little less obtrusive. What's a dark gray look like? I don't think that's different. Gray is darker than dark gray. Oh my goodness. Anyway. So, good. We have a new way to do basically a horizontal rule dash 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 style divider. I don't have a good sense of how to know how big this options is or if I even care, so I'm not going to worry about shortening it up, but getting it off to the left seems great. So, oh, I already have an icon stuff down here. Alright. Well, I assume that I can just move the icon up here. Icon options. Indeed, category options. And then we can go ahead and say y equals add divider options y. Cool. So, require shift key to move the icon. If we can check that. Now, click and dragging doesn't do anything, although we're not paying attention to the mouse leaving and then releasing. Interesting. So, the minimized icon, let's click. Mouse enter, mouse leave. Okay, mouse down. So if mouse down and it has moved, otherwise, so mouse leave, okay, so we know mouse inside is a thing. So where are we using that? We weren't, but we should be. So mouse up, else if mouse inside, I'm sorry, else if, then let's give that a shot. So we can move that, require shift, and if we click and drag, and the mouse cursor is still inside, then it's just going to treat it as a click. Otherwise, if you click and drag off, it's doing it the way it should be now. Awesome. Let's go ahead and make some commits. Okay, so only respect icon click if cursor is still over icon. That's such a small thing, I don't think it's even going into the README file, but it's just a little bug fix. Okay, added idea, divider, and options. So that's the add divider function. And then we're going to add that one as well. Cool. And now we can be working on the, I'll just say, moved icon options section to top added divider. Okay, so we are back to a clean working directory. So what's the first thing? Alternative shape for a plugin icon. It is possible to use stretch mode to squish and expand these things. However, I don't have a firm grasp of what's coming down the pipeline on Bullroarer about the updated scaling system. So I'm a little hesitant to rely on that. However, what are we doing here? Minimized icon is a window, and window scaling might be fine. I haven't been doing enough with it. So if anyone has been playing around with that and is listening along and wants to chime in, but my instinct is to just render out 2 or 3 different sizes and shapes and call it good. So in our resources, we have the ddlog. I don't know if that's really looks like that, or if that's something Visual Studio Code is doing. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the GNU image manipulation program and take a look. Great. Looks pretty transparent to me. I think it was just trying to render a checker box outside of it or something. Okay, so we have the ddlog.tga, and this is pulled pretty much straight from the game, this right here. Now, that ddlog doesn't have any icons that particularly I'm interested in. This ddlog does not either. It's also not functional right now. So I think it's probably reasonable to go ahead and say what is this? Image canvas size. Wow, that is large. Okay, call it 120, close enough. So if we go ahead and image, scale image, and if we go ahead and call that 64, and then 32. So export as, as a deed log is 64 by 64 dot TGA. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and undo that because we really want to image, we want to scale from here, if possible, and bring it down to 32. And we'll go ahead and export that as 32 by 32. And then, of course, the funny thing is the person requested a square instead of a circle, and of course we know that the image is a square. Images have to be square in LOTRO, or at least the ones plugins use, but they don't have to show squares, but they are rectangular, I guess. It doesn't have to be a square, but they are rectangular. This one just happens to be square. And then you can use transparencies to make it look like you have something else, but yeah, you're not loading any circular images. But I don't think that's what they meant. So if we go ahead and start bringing this in, let's go ahead and do something like that. To start with that. Let's see what that looks like. So we're going to go ahead and crop to our selection. If we scroll back out to 100%, I mean, that's what they asked for. I don't know. That's fine. How big is this now? Canvas size. It's almost 64 by 64. Let's go ahead and export it as is. Deed log rectangle. I'm just going to call it 64 by 64. It's a lie. No, it's fine. I won't do that. So image, scale image. Let's go ahead and do 64. This should be, let's go ahead and make it a square. And let's go ahead and center the resulting pixels. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and put the layer to image size so we can go ahead and just get a black background there. And then, do I want to go ahead and do those? Whoopsie, not that one. I think I'd like to go ahead and, what's the threshold here? Let's drop that threshold down. Yeah, I think that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and re-export that one as the rectangle. Then we're going to go ahead and image, scale the image down to 64 by 64. So we can export that as the explicitly 64 by 64. And then undo that so we can instead scale it down to 32 by 32. Great. So, nothing too complicated, but we just did the bare bones image manipulation so we can make this work. So, in our resources, we now have a number of them, and I think it would be go ahead and say new folder, icons. So we're going to go ahead and move all of those. But we have the dlog ICO and dlog TGA. That's probably worth moving both of those as well. So where does dlog ICO get used? It's going to be only in the .plugin file, which we're not going to find. So let's come on instead into dtracker.plugin file. We're going to open up here, it's fine. And we can see, oh, that's doing a .tga also. Well, it needs to go to icon. Icons. It needs to go to icons. Okay. Failed to load the background image. Well, that's fair. Minimized icon. We need to go to images. Icon. Okay. Apparently I did miss something though, because I did this wrong. I think it's forcing all three of them true. Is it? We're not looking at deed. We're gonna have to circle back around to that as soon as we fix the problem I just made for myself. Okay, so we're looking at deed log. Main icon. Well, fair enough. Well, that's funny. I think I didn't realize that that was the deed tracker icon there. Why on earth did I do that? What if it was instead deedlog.tga? Well, that's not great. What if it was one of the alternative ones? 64 by 64.tga. Oh, that's even worse. 32 by 32. Oh, that's fine. I think that might be why I did that, because I hadn't scaled these down. Okay, so I'm not convinced there is an ICO, but let's go ahead and just search in that location for ICO. .ICO. Okay, apparently yes. This thing was using it. Yeah, alright. Can you do a .tga? You cannot. Well, that's fine then. Alright, cool. So, we have updated that reference. Okay. We've moved a bunch of icons into an icons folder for later reference. I don't think the main icon.tga is in use anymore. Main icon. Okay, yeah, main icon, not so much. And I think it's fine, but I don't think I need it anymore. Okay, so we have the DLog TGA and the ICO. We have 3 different rectangles. Okay, that's fine. Now, unfortunately, when you reorganize files like this and people just do an update, the old location for those files remains behind, and they also get the copies in the new location, which is kind of a bummer, but eventually those computers will die and they'll have to download this from scratch, and that'll be fine. Okay, LOTRO start, okay. That's that, LOTRO points, progress bar, yeah. Why do I have the reload button? Don't know. That's wild. Okay. Neat. So. I forgot to actually keep this open so I can get image sizes. So image, canvas size, that is 42 by 42. Great. So the minimized icon, set background, that's going to be images DLog, yeah. Which is 42 by 42, which is odd. Where did I get this from? Is that the icon? Okay. That is 117 by 117 TGA. Sure. Now, I don't know that that's a reasonable thing to have done, though, because I assume this was affected by scaling of the user interface. So I think it'd be better to say, okay, let's look at UI settings. Let's reset everything. Yeah, that's more reasonable. Let's go ahead and do a new snip here and say, okay, what is this? That's actually really small. But we can see that is that's only 29 by 29. All right, what if the UI setting all right, what's the options panel? That's this one. Panels. It's not a panel. Alerts. Okay, let's search for menu. Sure, let's accept that. Let's see if I regret that. It's not a menu, but I know something scaled it. System. Nope. Menu. Okay, since we were able to make that, I could just could scale everything, I guess. Global scale. That's probably not going to come back and bite me. I feel like there's something in the game that has, yeah, that image exists in a better resolution. Because we can, well, it could just be those pixels scaled up. Alright, well, how big is that? What? No. Alright, that's 56 and 55. I did something weird there, so I'm just going to undo for a moment. I'm going to keep one pixel border anyway. Alright, so this is 58 by 57. Okay. I don't really have it in this configuration very often. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so we have the question of what is this image, where is this image, why is this image? And I don't think it's worth trying to dig for it now, but if I could find that as a resource in the game, that would be very handy. Instead, I think I'm going to run with what I currently have, which is there's a 42 by 42 here. All right, so what size? It's that size 42 by 42. Is it really just that big? Why are people worried about the size of this thing? I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and just double check. How many pixels are we using here? So I've hit edit and paint, coming on in. Oh, it was about 42 by 42. I messed it up there. There, we'll just do it like this. Okay, so that is 42 by 42. So I guess my 64 by 64 was optimistic. So instead we're going to come on in here, and we are going to go back to that 64 by 64. No, we'll start with the 117 by 117. We're going to go ahead and scale this down to 16 by 16. I mean, I guess I have an image. DT, you're asking for some crazy small stuff. All right, let's take a look at this. So that is 18 by 18. I'm seeing a lot of 18 by 18. All right. Well, I can get an extra 2 pixels. So we're going to go ahead and scale the image, 18 by 18, and export, 18 by 18. And then we're going to go ahead and open up the rectangle one as well. That's 75, so that's fine. We're going to go ahead and scale the image down to 18 by 18 and export that as well. It's crazy. It does make me wonder if I should do 36s instead of 32s though, just for consistency. So sure, since I'm in here. So we're going to go ahead and scale the image. So we're taking that down to 36 by 36. We'll export that as 36 by 36. And some combination of these we will actually use. Alright, image, scale the image down to 36 by 36 and export that as well. Okay, I'm going to exit out of here, but I do want to go ahead and close that. Cool, so let's go ahead and have some options. So, deed log here is too generic, not a fan. And we're just looking for that exact thing. So what we want is deed log icon full. We'll just say large. And we'll have medium and small. And for those, we're going to have 36 by 36 and 18 by 18. Great. And I'll just prematurely delete a few of these other ones. Okay. That one. So that's a medium small. Now I have this larger one. My current one's 42. I mean, yeah, it's fine. Okay. And again, we want to go ahead and have circle. Nope. Circle, large, medium, small, because then we can go ahead and also have, and if we did this in a table format, it might make sense. We'll come back to that. Will we? I don't know. But we do want to go ahead and mark these off as square. Well, sure. Square, and that's going to be apparently this closed when I closed the last one, or I closed it subconsciously. Alright, how big is this? 75 by 75. Okay. Okay. Nope, must have closed it. Alright, so this thing by itself is roughly 25 by 25. So I think these are fine. Okay. So medium and small. So we're going to call that this and this. Now, we do not want to hard code anything about these if we can. When you're switching between each icon, we want to be able to look that up. So, images. So we want this to be icons. And we're going to make a new table that we're going to know the structure of because we're the only consumers of it. So this is going to be deed tracker. No, maybe just icons. Okay, and so here we're going to move all of these in here. And then instead of just a string entry, string value, we want all of these to be tables. And so that'll be path equals, and it's going to look like that. But we also don't want to like write that ourselves four more times. So let's just pop it into something else, and we can say, okay, cool. This is going to be a new table where this is path equals that, and then we'll go ahead and end that table. But we'll also go ahead and say width equals x, and we'll also have height equals y, and then we'll remember that that should be quoted. And then we'll go ahead and pick up the value for height and width, although it's currently always going to be the same, but we don't need it to always be the same. Cool. So we have all of that. We can bring that in and replace this. So that should be 42 and 42. And now we don't actually need the comments because it's both in the file name, but also encoded in the data here. So we're going to clean that up as well. Okay. So, we're going to be adding into our settings which selected icon we're using. And that's going to be the name that we're using here. And I think it's fine that we're not encoding the number of pixels in it, and it's just whatever they have selected. So the default is going to be this one. So if we come into our settings, globals, is this a character setting? Server setting? I think everything else has been character setting, and I do think it'd be good to have a copy these settings to make them the default or whatever, but we don't have that quite yet. So the minimized icon currently has XY, and we also want the icon equals that. So now minimized icon, when it is loading up, so we can set the background to get icon details, local icon equals images dot icons dot, and then that's going to be settings dot minimized icons dot icon. And we'll go ahead and go to dot notation for that too. Okay, so we have the icon. So we can set the background to icon dot path, and actually local path equals as a default, images.icons. Well, actually, or images.icons.circle large. So let's go ahead and just default to this if we don't have a good setting, and then we don't have to worry about the rest of this. So we want icon.path, and we want to set the size to icon.width and icon.height. All right, let's take a look at that. Ideally, it should just work. Okay, it seems to. What happens if we have a different setting? So, in our settings, let's come into plugin data, and coming into Affodil, and settings. So, icon, minimized icon. We can see the minimized icon here. So if we change this, we don't currently have a way to do this other than, here we go. So, small. There we go. So DT, it's on its way. You'll be able to plant this on your radar just like that. And also, oh, the window's not the right size though. That's funny. Okay. Hang on a second. So, set size, there we go. So let's go ahead and say local width equals icon.width, local height equals icon.height, and then we can use that anywhere we were using the 4242. Let's try that again, because otherwise we are accepting too much of the mouse over that. Okay, now coming up soon is the opacity thing, but I think we have run out of time for tonight. So as I finalize these changes and put them into source control, if you have any last minute questions, comments, concerns that you want to toss out into chat, now's a great time to do it. Otherwise, we'll pick it up next time. Let's go ahead and see what's changed. So we've hit save all, awesome. Let's come on in here. So we're not using all of these files that I just spun up, and that's fine. Let's take a look at which ones actually made it into code. So in images, deadlog.ico is being used. We also have the 44, 36, and 18. We have this full one, and I think I'm going to keep it right now just because, it's blown up, but it's fine. And then we have 18, 36. We're not using the large rectangle, and I think it's fine to just remove it. Okay, so moved icons into their own folder, and then also added additional sizes. So that is all of these, and it's going to correctly identify that deadlog.ico has been moved. This one has been moved. Main icon has been deleted, and that's fine. As a part of that, though, we're going to go ahead and take this as well. Take this. That's got to update, and then this has to update. Okay, so that's a start. Next time, we are going to go ahead and set up an options for opacity and for selecting which one of those 5 icons is used for the minimize icon. So let's go ahead and make a note of that somewhere. Yeah, minimized icon. To do next time. Add option for opacity. in options. Does it get opaque, and if so, how opaque? So, so that is a checkbox and a slider. Also, radio buttons to choose which size, shape, icon to use. Okay, so that's all going to be for next time. That's the only thing that's showing up in my working directory other than the debug option. And that is fine. So we know what we're doing. And then alternative shapes, oh, that's not done yet. Icon for opacity, right clicking it. Oh, yeah. Right clicking should do something. Now, it is possible to take a look at that. If we look at the mouse down, if it's left, what about else if args.button equals turbine.ui.mouse.button.right? Then we can just go ahead and debug hi, just to see that it is working. Yep, we got a hi there. Also, question of could middle mouse button be something interesting? Probably not. But as a shortcut to bringing up the recently completed window, maybe. Okay. Options. What about middle clicking? Shortcut to recent completion? Question mark? All right. Okay, great. So we had really good progress today, working through some existing issues with deed completions, but also starting to work on these quality of life features for the minimize icon, which is right now so minimized, I'm not even sure you can see it underneath my face here, but it's there. Here, I'll put it over the black border. So that's the 16 by or 18 by 18 one that some people were requesting. Bonkers, if you ask me, but I do appreciate the idea of matching some of these icons over here. That's nice. That's smooth. I can get behind that. So let me just double check. Yeah, that's everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I hope to see you all here next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.